Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I am a arts reporter for Georgia Voice. I'm also the festival director of Out on Film, Atlanta's LGBTQ film festival. I'm very excited to be doing another interview this morning and in conversation. Decades ago, Julia Scotti performed as Rick Scotti and appeared on bills with Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock. Now the trans comedian returns to the stage as, quote, the crazy old lady of comedy in the tender, funny, and triumphant comeback story documentary Julia Scotti, Funny That Way, which is available on VOD and streaming on June 1st. Please welcome the subject of the film, Julia Scotti, and the director and producer, Susan Sandler. Thanks so much for joining us today.
I love the way you
Hi.
pronounce my last name, Scotti. It makes me sound so.
Italiano.
Ooh.
Is it my southern accent or
No, it just makes me sound so classy.
Yeah.
I watched the film this morning and I really enjoyed it. So kudos for such an amazing film.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy all these years. It's been 5 years of our journey, Julia, right?
You said we were going into our sixth, right? This was
Yeah,
your
this
sixth
with the
year.
release now. Yeah.
I did nothing, by the way. She did all the work. So just so you know.
Susan, how did this come up? How did you get the idea to do this?
A dear friend of ours, Jane Condon, who's a wonderful comedian
Yeah.
and also produces wonderful evenings of comedy, brought Julia to Nantucket, where I am right now.
Mhm.
And I got to see her at the Dreamland Theater, and I was just blown away. I was blown away by everything, the essence of her act. And then we got to hang out afterwards, and I just fell in love. And that's where good things begin, when you fall in love. So
Exactly.
she shared some of her material. I began to work with her dramaturgically on a one-woman show, and that became sort of the information that led me to this beautiful story wants to be a documentary, and that's how we began.
Okay. Julia, when you found out that Susan wanted to make this documentary, I mean, how did you react?
In being in show business and especially in comedy all these years, when you have people come up to you all the time and go, "Hey, I want to make you a star," and give me your number, and you never hear from them again. So when she said this, I said, "Well, it sounds wonderful," and she seemed like a legitimate lady. And naturally, when I got home, I investigated her and I vetted her, and turned out she was legit. And and then when she actually sent a film crew to my house, I went, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe she's serious." And that's pretty much how it began.
I had no idea it had taken so long, 5, 6. I mean, what was it like those 5 years making this and then keeping the patients and just keeping it going?
Well, my background is in narrative films. I wrote the movie Crossing Delancey and a film with Kathleen Turner called Friends at Last, and a lot of theater.
Yeah.
So this has been my first experience in documentary, and I teach at NYU Tisch in the film program. I teach screenwriting.
Okay.
So the idea of storytelling and documentary was kind of mysterious to me. The idea of a big, interesting, complex character with a very interesting, complex life, and how you create story from real life. And what I learned is that the process is very much the same, except you get what you get, and what you get can be really surprising and exciting. But it's about a kind of resilience of staying with the story journalistically. And Julia was wonderfully caring and trusting of me, and allowed me into her private and public life. So I was able to shoot her performances, which are brilliant, and into her private life, which is very much an open, interesting story of her journey, her personal journey. So I've been a very fortunate filmmaker to have such a beautiful partner in making this film.
Great. Julia, was there anything that was off limits for Susan to film?
Wow, that's a great question. No, not really. The really sensitive parts about my children were she handled with great delicacy, and she would ask me. She goes, "If this is going too far, please let me know." And so, we really didn't cross that line. Of course, coming into my hospital room when I'm recovering from open heart surgery, some people would have said that might have been a little too far, but I didn't think so.
Okay. I was reading in the press notes, and I have a question for both of you, in which you know, you talk about the similarities between you two and the bond. Can you just sort of describe the bond that you two immediately formed, and how it really made these 5 years making this easier?
You want to answer that
Sure.
first,
Well,
Susan?
you
I'll
know, I
jump in.
think, yeah, I mean, I think generationally, there's just so much that links us, culturally, aesthetically. We are women of a certain age, and we have a sense of the world and culture and humor and the people we admire, and our tastes. And um, I'm Jewish, Julia's Italian, and I think Italians are Jews and Jews are Italian. I think.
In disguise.
So all that stuff was just like, yeah, we there was a sisterhood immediately.
And I also think, Susan has a great sense of what the trans experience is, for people like us, especially because we are in the same generation. It's different for people in my generation to go through this than it is, I think, for somebody like a millennial or somebody or Gen Xer who's younger, and their peers might be a little bit more accepting. For my generation, not so much. And so she understood that, and I think she presented that in a really tasteful way too.
Susan, so both of you worked on this film so long. No one knew that COVID was upcoming. How did COVID affect, the film festival schedule for this, and ultimately the release of the film?
Thank you, Jim. That is also a really
And a
significant
sore point.
question. We had gotten through this long and loving process of following Julia over 5 very important years. And these were years where she had just started coming back to comedy. She had an incredible debut on national television on AGT. Her children had just come back into her life. So all of these pieces were coming together. And then she was on Showtime's Funny Women, and a health crisis, all of this happening. But all of these pieces came together to tell this story of this remarkable person. And just as we were finishing post, and I had the whole basket of DCPs ready to go out onto the festival circuit, traveling with Julia, and the design was going to be Julia doing comedy in clubs in the same cities where we were working. So this great experience of people being able to see her live, see the movie, meet us both. That was the design of the release campaign. And then COVID, and everything crashed. So, the first steps into festivals, as with our film, with many other films, were really tentative. The idea of what streaming is, and how streaming kind of, for some distributors, was not a friendly idea because it steps on distribution, but distributors changed their tune as that became, this is what you got to do to build their audience. So along the way, we just got more and more kind of tuned into what virtual festivals felt like. And we had great experiences. We were at some wonderful festivals. We met wonderful people. We wish we could be there in person. There's one more festival that we're doing in California at Sebastopol, which is a great doc festival. And they love Julia so much, they want to fly her in a balloon. So that's a fantasy there. So, we haven't had the live experience, but we've really been able to connect with audiences. And we're so excited to be releasing for Pride. That's really, the joy of this. So, as as a programmer for your own festival, you adjust, right? You figure it out.
Exactly. Julia, how would you describe Julia as a comedian versus Rick as a comedian?
Oh, wow. I've told this story a number of times. When I came back for my second coming, I had 2 criteria, and they were to be totally honest and fearless up there. Prior to that, as Rick, I was fearful of everything because I was afraid. I knew something was, I hate to use the term not right, but something was amiss in my character. And I thought that I was gay. And at that time, being gay in show business was not a really popular thing to do. And so I hid it. And it turned out, I wasn't. So it scared me even more because now I didn't know what was wrong. So I lived sort of stealth as a cis person. Coming out the way I did on national television, It's the mother of all coming out stories. There's no hiding anymore. So I can be totally honest. You come to see a show. It's not like a big surprise. Oh, she's what? She's what?
Mm,
They know. I mean, anybody who's done any research on me knows what I am and who I am.
yeah. Um, America's Got Talent obviously has so many people watching it, but how did that? What did that do for your career?
Changed my life.
Yeah.
It revived my. I had a career before. I was pretty well known, but this thing was bigger than even I thought.
Mhm.
And my hope was that I could reach out to trans kids and adults all around the country. Turned out it was all around the world. I did not realize that they have international viewers, and so I started hear from people in Brazil and Australia and New Zealand. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So it's in part why I bumped into Susan, because Jane booked me on the strength of AGT, I believe, right? Wasn't that
It
part of?
was,
I knew
that was before AGT, but
but I knew we were in the running
Mhm.
for the show. I think at that point we hadn't gotten it, so I was just starting to get a reputation again as a comic, and so all those elements sort of worked together. So AGT though was the catalyst that sort of shot me into orbit.
Exactly. This is a question for both of you. Um, when you came out as trans, you lost a lot of people in your life that were close to you. How hard was it to relive that? And Susan, how hard was it to really? How hard was that to sort of delve into?
I'll leave that to you to begin, Julia.
Okay, there were people obviously in my life that it was difficult to watch or listen to, as in the case of my ex Kate. There was a phone call in there. There were people in my life that I kind of was glad that didn't come back. There were moments watching the kids that made me sad and made me very, very happy at the same time, as in the PFLAG meeting um, with my son, and so it was a roller coaster emotionally for me. But overall, a very positive experience.
Okay.
Susan,
And from my end, the process in indie documentary is you raise money and you shoot, and you raise more money and you shoot, and a lot of grants applications, and all those applications want you to project what the film is going to be. You have to write the synopsis even before you've shot it. And
Okay.
with of course, with this is a portrait of a very complex, beautiful person, but we didn't know what the journey was going to be over, or how long it was going to be. So one of the journals that became the source for my some of my applications, I projected a kind of big denouement in the film, a finale, a big climax, which would be Julia in performance. And in the audience would be all of her ex-wives, all of these family members, and all these people who would come back into her life. This was, early in the shoot, when I was just, beginning to figure out what the structure might be. And when I tell Julia about that and shared those notes with her, it was just like a Fellini nightmare for her to figure out.
I, yeah, it really was. The very thought of that happening would be like matter and antimatter in the same room, and just no.
So the reality of the process of talking to Julia and finding out who are the people in her constellation, and who are the people that would be useful to talk to, and
Mhm.
then getting access and tiptoeing around what's most comfortable for everybody, all of that sort of led to the stuff of the film, which is some of the material is offered in archival, some of the material are interviews, and in the archival, which was so fascinating, Julia gave me very generously just boxes of archival materials, a lot of them VHS tapes of old comedy routines. That was the period, that was the material, and not beautifully shot, some of it, but valuable because it was what Rick was doing, and it was the story that Rick was telling. And in the middle of some of those demo reels, I would find little pieces of home movies, because obviously there was a camera, there was no blank tape, so the demo reel got slammed into the camera, and so there was this like archival um, dig, to find these jewels in the middle of these demo reels. So it's been a, really complex, interesting journey, and figuring out um, whose stories we're telling, completing Julia's story has been part of it.
Sure. How would you say, this is for both of you again, how would you say that the film has been received both in the LGBTQ community as well as the stand-up community?
The stand-up community has been very supportive in almost everything that I do.
Great.
It's a very close-knit community, and I'm it almost is, it's family. Comedians are like family, so they've taken it very well. And in the straight community, and the family that I have that still talks to me, they love the movie too. I mean, everybody that's seen it has said, they wind up crying through it. But it's tears of joy, tears of sadness all through the movie. So very well, the reception has been terrific.
Great. Great.
What I love is that Julia's audience and fan base is really broad.
Mhm.
She has really young fans and fans of in every age group. So and it's just really big. So the idea that her story is revealing so much of what she brings to her comedy, which is so truthful and honest, I think appeals to a really large audience because of her honesty, and because of the honesty that she's brought to the storytelling that we're doing.
We tried, if I could just add to that, one of the things I try to do in my comedy is to eliminate the stigma of age.
Mhm.
Uh, and I want young people to come and see what I do. I want to share that, the experience of aging with them. I want, and not in a condescending way. I want them to know that it's a beautiful thing to get old, and it's all right to get pissed off, and it's all right to, I might know some things that you don't know, and you might know some things that I don't know. And so there's this whole, teaching thing going on as well. So it's why I kind of really kind of market myself to all age groups.
Okay. Susan, so can you talk a little bit about branching out and doing your first film?
Yeah. Well, I'm very lucky that I work in a program at NYU Tisch, a film program, full of great colleagues who've been hugely supportive of me, and that became the basis for a lot of my outreach, for my collaboration. The wonderful animation in the film is by Sam Roth, who came out of our program. My editor, Marcia Moore McKeever, is a colleague of mine from Tisch. The brilliant Louis Erskine, who just edited the wonderful Miles Davis doc, is my office mate and our wonderful consultant on the film. So I was just surrounded by an incredible amount of support. And I got to screen the film for people like Sam Pollard, who's a
Wow.
genius in doc, who gave me great notes. So as someone who has mentored a lot of students and a lot of people along the way in feature writing, as a documentarian in my first film, I've been mentored by some wonderful people, and I know what that feels like, to get it back, having given it to others. So it's a really lovely circle of support, and I feel super grateful for that family around me.
Allow me to be kind of a fan geek right now. I'm a huge fan of Crossing the Delancey.
Oh,
And
thank you.
the play, and obviously the movie as well. So I just want to say thank you for that. I've seen that.
Oh,
I've seen the movie a dozen times. I've seen the show various places a lot. So thank you for that.
sure. And the film, was very much, I wrote the screenplay and the play, and I'm in the film. It was shot in my apartment building in
I
New
didn't
York.
know that.
Yeah, in my bubby's apartment building, and I was on set every day, and the Roaches were people I was close to, so I brought that music into the film. So there's a lot in the film that I got to contribute that were very much a part of my life. So it's kind of a blueprint, very close to my own storytelling too. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And it's had a really happy revival recently, which has been really satisfying.
Congratulations. So what's next for both of you?
Julia has just written a great play.
I
Oh,
have. Well, I don't know if it's a great play, but I've written a play. Actually, it was my COVID project, my first attempt, and hopefully, Susan and I have talked about maybe somehow getting it put on stage somewhere. So I'm hoping for that.
Yeah.
And also, I just did a little bit of acting last year before COVID, and we just got to see the film. It was a student film, but I kind of got the acting bug a little bit. I'd like to try some more.
Oh, great.
And for me, I have a project in the works that I had worked on with Olympia Dukakis that is a piece that I thought was going to be a play, but I think it wants to be a miniseries. So I'm trying to develop that now. That's sort of on the back burner, because this film is on the front burner right now. Getting it out is
Exactly.
really my main energy now.
Yeah. Congratulations on both of you for such an amazing film. The film is Julia Scotti, Funny That Way, is available on VOD and streaming June 1st. Thank you both for joining us today. The film is amazing. Thanks so much for your time. And we're gonna stop recording in a moment, and I'm gonna grab a photo of you two.
Great.
Thanks so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Thank you. Mwah.